Hey there guys, and welcome back. On this week's show, a ruler holder for your shop. In my shop I have quite a few steel rulers and I use them on a regular basis. I do not use just one. I have 4 or 5 that I use for different tasks at the bench, and they're on a magnetic toolbar. The problem is they're side by side, and when they're like that, they take up a lot of space on the toolbar, and that is space that could be used for other items that I'd like to have there. So we're going to use a bit of scrap maple today, and we're going to make a holder for these. So let's get at it. Well, I have a scrap of maple here. It's kind of rough. It's cut some really weird grains in it and some flaws with knots and that sort of thing. So this is the piece that we're going to use. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to mill it down on the table saw to a size of 3/4 inches thick, 1 3/8 of an inch wide, and 10 inches long. Well, we now need to do some layout on our piece of maple. So the first thing that we want to do is from one end, we're going to come in at 3 3/4 of an inch. We'll just place a mark and then we'll square it off. We will also do the same thing on the other side. Come in 3 3/4 of an inch, and we're going to square it off. So in that area that we just marked out here in the center, we're going to come down from the top of our piece 5/8 of an inch and draw a line in between those two lines that we just drew. Just like that. So this section right here that I've just scribbled in here, this is waste material. So in each one of our corners now, we need to draw a 1/2 inch diameter circle. And we'll just draw those in that corner, this corner, and we will also take that 1/2 inch diameter circle on the outside here. And as well, we will do the same thing on every one of our corners here to take off all of those sharp edges. And then here at the top of this one, just like this, and then on these two corners as well. All right, so that is our basic layout. We need to do some marking for some mounting holes, and for that all we need to do is we're going to come up 1/2 inch from our bottom here, right there, 1/2 inch, and then 1 inch in from each end. And those will be our mounting holes. We'll just turn this around. So 1/2 inch up from the bottom, and then 1 inch in from the end. And then we can center punch those. Well, now on the top of our piece, we're going to mark for a saw kerf that we need to put there. We're going to use the table saw, but we need to mark a saw kerf right in the middle. So 3/4 of an inch thick, 3/8 would be the center. And that saw kerf is going to be 3/32 of an inch wide. It's also going to be 5/8 of an inch deep, which will coincide with this line right here. So let's head over to the table saw, we'll set our blade, and we'll cut this saw kerf. Well, in that last clip, I think I said that this was supposed to be a 3/32 inch wide dado. Must be the first day with my new tongue, because 3/16 is what it should be. So at this point, you just want to check to make sure that whatever rulers you want to put in here, that they fit into this setup and that they're not tight. You can easily pull them in and out. As long as you can pull them in and out easily, you're fine. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. I don't see any way that they're going to be sticking or whatever. They're in there nice and loose, so that's just fine. So our next step now is we're going to take it over to the scroll saw and we're going to cut out this recess here that we drew out earlier. I'm just installing a number 7 reverse tooth blade in our saw, and that should very easily handle this 3/4 maple. And then we'll cut out the area that we marked. Now that we have that cut out, we're going to head over to the belt sander and we'll just round off these 1/2 inch diameter corners that we've placed here. Well, at this point, you should have something that looks like this. So the first thing we need to do now is place a mark right in the middle of our piece. So that will be at 5 inches. It's just going to be a light mark, and then we're going to transfer that mark into our little recess here. Once we get that done, we need to mark the center of our 3/4 inch board. And then we'll center punch that. And once we get that center punched, well, then we're going to head over to the drill press. Well, the very first thing that we're going to do is where we've marked and center punched our holes on the outside, we're going to drill and countersink for a number 8 screw. Now this hole that we marked in our cut recess, we will now drill a 1/2 inch diameter Forstner bit hole, and we're going to make it 1/8 of an inch deep. At this point, you can erase all of your pencil lines and give the entire piece a good sanding. Here's a little tip for you. If you're putting pencil lines on a piece of wood, one of the big rookie mistakes is to use sandpaper to get rid of those lines. Truthfully, you're removing way too much of your stock in order to get rid of the pencil lines doing it that way. You're better off to remove the majority of it with a good quality pencil eraser, and then once you get that done, it doesn't take much sanding at all to get rid of the last little bit. So there you go. Use a pencil eraser long before you use sandpaper. Well, here we have our piece sanded, and it's time to move on to the final step, and that has to do with that 1/2 inch hole. All we're going to do is take a little bit of CA glue, and we're going to glue in place a 1/2 inch rare earth magnet. So a little bit of CA glue in there. Oops, that may be a little more than what I need. I'm going to take some accelerant and spray on the magnet itself. And then we're just going to pop that magnet right in place here. And there we go. Glued in. Well, now there's really not much more to do other than to mount this piece. So I'm going to mount it, and I'll come back and see you when I get that done. So for my purposes, I figured the best place to mount this is going to be right here on the windowsill. It's up and out of the way, easily accessible from my bench, and I will have all my rulers there at my fingertips. So there we go. And then the rulers just sit in place. That rare earth magnet does a fantastic job of holding them there where I need them. So I know they're not going to be falling out. And there you go. Perfectly tucked away and ready to use at any point in time. And there you have it. A shop-made ruler holder. Guys, this is not my idea. I don't want to steal anybody's thunder, but this was a shop tip in an old Shop Notes magazine that I found in my collection. And as I was browsing through, every once in a while I like to go through the old magazines and see if it triggers any new ideas. And I can't believe I missed this one. It just illustrates that a project does not have to be super complicated to be super useful. This is nothing more than a 3/4 inch thick board that was cut to 10 inches long and 1 3/8 of an inch wide. It's got a dado through the middle and some little scroll saw curves and sandings, and then it's got a rare earth magnet plunked right into the middle of a recess. This is not rocket science. This is a stick of wood, but the amount of space that it cleared up on one of my magnetic toolbars is just amazing. I love it. There's 4 or 5 rulers there, and that really does take up a lot of space because they're not mashed tight together. They do have gaps in between them, which of course takes up even more space. So now I can fill up my magnetic tool holders with a bunch of other junk that was lying around somewhere else. Either way, a very simple project, a very simple concept, but oh my goodness, what a great one. This is awesome. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed today's show. It's a little different from the norm here, where normally there's all kinds of steps and different pieces of wood that you glue together and blah, blah, blah. Today is one piece of wood, one simple scrap piece of wood that really has a fantastic purpose. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Click that bell so that you don't miss the notifications of future episodes of the show. I hope you've enjoyed the content today. I hope you're going to try this one for yourself. I want to thank you so much for tuning in again this week, guys. And I hope you're going to join me again next week when I bring you yet another woodworking video. Is cutting a dado in one stick of wood woodworking? Sure it is. Of course. course it is. It was a piece of wood.